Radio. We are so glad that you're here with us today, wherever you are in the world watching this. And it's always a special day for me on Mondays because we get to go live or have other speakers on that we've brought to the show. So basically, this morning, we're going to connect with a very, very special person. My dear mother is on the other side of this screen, which I'm so grateful that we have technology to connect us all. It's just really beautiful. And she's going to be talking about the power of our intuition by connecting with presence. And really, when I say presence, it's that power of love within and around us. And we can feel that through our intuition. So when we're listening to our intuition, we're naturally going to become that greatest expression of love. And I know for me, my mom has been extremely just powerful in leading me on this path and just helping me in my personal relationships and my business and just everything that I have going on. So I just felt, what better person than to bring her on? So welcome to the show, Mama.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
You're a little bit frozen, but that's okay. Sometimes the technology catches up to us, but that's okay. So what do you feel connects you to that presence, and how do you really drop into your intuition?
So, to me, the voice of your intuition is heard through your heart, where your higher self is actually speaking. So, in order to actually hear that, your mind must be still. And what creates a still mind is when you actually focus in on your heart. So, because if you notice, like right now, if you just put your hand in your heart and you just like feel your heart, and that's where your focus is, there are no thoughts. Like suddenly the thinking, the thoughts that keep going round and round have stopped when there's just this moment of, I'm in my heart and I can feel it. So to me, the intuition, my experience is your intuition is never going to be heard except through the stillness of your heart. Your it will always be a very gentle, loving, soft voice. So the mind is very different. Those thoughts will go round and round like a merry-go-round, in a circular way. And there's no resolution to a circle. It's going to continue and continue, continue. The only way to get out of the circle is to like hop off the merry-go-round and into your heart. So sometimes we can mistake our intuition because our mind is going round and round with certain thoughts of the same thoughts. And we think, oh, that's it. And actually, no, that's not. We're not our thoughts. And those are just thoughts going round and round. So if we can get off the merry-go-round, or sometimes I just like, okay, mind, like, I love you so much, but let's just take the elevator down to our heart and let's just be here in our heart so we can really hear what's true. Because most of our thoughts, honestly, they're not true. They're just stories and whatever. It's whatever we've concocted, and the circle can get bigger, but a circle is no resolution. So, and because it's so loud and so the same over and over, we think that's us. We think that's our next step. We think, or we can, not always, but it's like the awareness that our thoughts aren't us, number one, and our thoughts certainly aren't our intuition. Our thoughts are that still, small, quiet voice within that we often like ignores. And especially when we're going round and round like this, that's what we think wants to be heard. But truly, it is our heart that, well, we want to hear our heart to access our intuition.
So don't you feel that when you say the voice of your heart, to me, it's a feeling tone. So it's beyond words, right? So it's a frequency that's felt.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you say, let your heart speak to you. So it's that feeling. oh, I feel my heart. I feel what's true in my heart. And then, for me and what I teach is to bring your awareness from your heart. So that's the gateway to then open to your gut. So that inner compass, which is that knowingness, and it can prompt you forward to the yes or no, like pulling back. So to me, it's
Right.
like you walk through that gateway, and you're like, and now I know what direction to go as I listen to my gut.
Right, right. Um, so for to go from your head to your gut is not going to work really because
So
you're
So,
in around
like I said, it's the gateway, right? So your heart
right
is the gateway,
for the
and
heart,
then you go to your gut.
right? Because the heart is going to have the still small voice, and then you take it, Um, so and what's tricky is fear. So, but the thing about intuition, it's always going to make you feel good. So fear can make you pull back. Fear is a really contractive energy. So it's when we get afraid, we literally contract and we look down. So the space is still around us. The whole world is still around us. All possibilities are still around us, but we have contracted to this place and we always look down and notice we clench our fists. So we're no longer willing, we're no longer available because we're in our fear. We can't receive because we're like this protecting ourselves because we're afraid. We're afraid of what might happen or could whatever the fear has brought up in whatever situation. So a contracted place is never your intuition ever. It's always this open expansive space.
Mhm,
Space is grace, and space in the stillness of our heart is infinite space where we literally can hear that still small voice of love for ourselves, number one. And then when we actually have that, we can have love. That love spills out, to others. It can't be any other way.
So, what do you think the best way to overcome your fear is, right? So, like you have a fear of something, like I really want this, but I feel this fear. Like, how do you recommend people overcome that fear and are able to move through it?
Well, okay, so fear is never rarely. Fear is not us. Fear is something that actually isn't real most of the time. I mean, like um most of the time fear is not real. It's kind of like, okay, I think I'll just make a date with that. That's one technique that I've learned from one of my
Like, I don't want to go on a date with fear.
mentors. No, but it's kind of like, okay, look, I am really afraid of this, and it just consuming my day. So guess what? I'm going to revisit you like 3 days from now. And at 1 o'clock, 3 days from now, I'm going to take a look at what I'm so afraid of right now. That's making me so contracted and making me not be able to see anything but myself. Like that's the other thing when you're so afraid. You are looking at yourself, your own feet, the ground. It's not possible. So fear is a oh, fear binds us so much. So if we can just make an appointment with it, because literally, if we understand it's just not us, it's just fear. So it's kind of like when we were kids, the lights were out and we looked at the lamp and we thought it was a monster. We absolutely knew there was a monster. There was a monster in the closet that was sort of open and it was just clothes hanging. But then when you go in there and you switch on the light, you know what it is. So fear puts that blanket of darkness over us and we can't see what's really real, what's really truth. And we are believing the truth. Like remember how scared were because we were just sure when we looked at that image in the dark that that's what it was. That's what fear does to us. And so fear is never real, for the most part. And so if you make an appointment with it, like 3 days out, it does like dissipate. And when you go back and excuse me, at that date, 3 days later, it's like it just completely dissolved. Because that's the thing about fear. It's like you switch on the light switch and it dissolves.
So, Mom, I'm beaming right now because as you're talking about the fear, the special person in my life literally just texted me as I moved into that place with you of my intuition. So, here's what I think is beautiful about energy and intuition. As we shift our frequency to love and intuition, and I was actually talking with him yesterday, I said, what would it be like to not have fear? And he's like, oh, it would just be your work, Abby. Everybody would follow their intuition. And he's right. If we all followed our intuition, we actually wouldn't have fear. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, that's so powerful because the next question I was going to ask you, if it still feels right, what happens if you feel overwhelmed by fear? Because I know there have been times where I felt that and called you like, Mom, I don't know what to do, right? And so to like practice, like, okay, feel the fear, let it move through. I guess I'm answering my own question and drop into that intuitive knowing. But I think that maybe we need to give ourselves grace. And I'm really talking to myself. I shouldn't say we. I know I do because I feel like I always need to always be tuned in. And it's like, okay, sometimes I feel fear and that's okay. And at any moment we can drop back into intuition. And that's why I like the metaphor of compass, right? It's just like it can just center you in.
Right. Well, and awareness is the first step of everything. Like if we're not aware, there's no way to navigate any other direction than. So when we're aware that fear is there, fear's in my face right now, and fear isn't real, then you can do whatever techniques, breathing, like connecting to your breath. Like just what I've been doing lately too is take a breath in and it's like I am space, and I look up into all the space, the infinite space of all that is that I am. So I am space and I am free, because in the space you're totally free, and when you're free you're not afraid.
Yeah.
Fear enslaves us. That is what needs to happen in this world, is we've got to get out of the enslavement of
Yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
doubt, and somebody else knows more than we do because we're afraid to trust ourselves. Like fear is the worst possible enslavement that has enslaved the masses. And it's really, really time for us to step up into that place of no fear, you don't have control over me. I am in charge and I choose. So in this moment, I'm going to breathe deep and connect to who I am, because that breath that arises within me arises from nothing. It arises from within, and it is what is living and breathing within me. So how could it not be anything other than God's breath living and breathing within me? And so that means that I am God in human form, living and breathing God. So how can I be afraid?
I love that, the oneness with God. Yeah, we were listening to that at the self-realization temple around the corner. It's that oneness. You can actually even heal your body with that pure light consciousness. So, you know what, Mom? I know you probably can't control this, but the reception is not good where you're at. So don't worry about it. I just want to let everybody know where they can find you because you have such great wisdom and we can audibly hear you. But if anybody wants to go to www.teresagooch.com, you can see how her name is spelled. And she has programs and private coaching where you can work with her and hop on a Zoom call because it's like so good. But I'm like, it's kind of going in and out with you. So
Wait, so the picture or the
don't worry about it, Mom. I just want to let everybody know
okay.
where they can find you. It's just teresagooch.com, and then it's THERISA. Gooch.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see it on your thing. So anyways, it's just I want to make sure they can get all of you. And so we got the audio, but not quite the video. Is there anything else you want to add about that, Mom, about intuition and maybe applying it? It's kind of like applying intuition with space. And like you said, from that place, you're able to create. And I think, one of my greatest blessings in my life is you, because I was raised with that and still have that as an adult, that space. Actually, I'll get chills as I said that. Even beyond that space, it's the space you hold for somebody of unconditional love and just healing and growth. And I feel like as a coach, which you are, it's like that naturally expand somebody into their greatness, and you have so many just tools and skills that you need. But I truly feel it's your presence, right? That's really what heals.
Well, here's the thing. I don't believe that we actually hold space. We actually create space. We are creating this space for, well, we are space, and our presence actually even creates even more infinite space for um whoever you're with to be, or even the ground we walk on. Like, I don't know, life is so incredibly sacred, and it's so holy, and it's so absolute pure love. If we can just stay in that place, like, everywhere you walk, your feet bless the earth. Like, that keeps you in your heart, like, and very present to the presence. And when you're in that place, the wisdom of your intuition will speak through you. And it's so important right now. It's so important that we listen to that voice, and that is why I am so cheering you on and applauding and excited that you always have been, and stepped out into that place of leading through intuition. I mean, at a really young age, when no one else your age was doing something like that. And it- uh and now it's like, this is what we need more than anything, and children need to know that. Children need to know their voice, the voice of their heart, the voice of their knowing. That is it. Like, they already have the power within them. It's already there, and we do as adults. And then as adults understand that they can actually allow their children to hear their own voices and to know their own truth. Because yeah, when I was raising you kids, it was I was still going through my understanding of knowing my own truth. And so um sometimes I feel like, how did I even navigate that at all? I think always so wanted to be free, and I wanted my kids to be free, and yet I wasn't. So it's all, what? This is an ever-ending journey. It's a sacred, heroic, amazing journey, and there's never a destination. Whenever we think we arrive, there's a whole new horizon in front of us where we want to expand and grow. And that's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of dancing in relationships that want the same thing. It's amazing. It's all beautiful.
Yeah.
Sort of got off on a tangent.
No, it's all right. And I think maybe there's a different word I can use rather than space. But what I mean is it's presence and space. So when you work with somebody, like for me as my mom and clients you work with, you're holding an energy for them. So
Mhm.
that's what I mean, right? Because that creates safety. It creates connection. It's like, I
Right,
see you. You're beautiful. I love you. It's an expansion. So that's what I'm
right,
I'm wanting to invite people into, because truly, like, if I didn't have people seeing me, it would be very hard. Like, I have a whole team in you that sees me, right? Like, if I didn't have that reflection, it would be hard. So that's why we're here to help you be seen for who you are.
right.
Um, so
And in your own heart, you actually see the real you. Like, the merry-go-round thoughts are actually, usually, they're self-talk that is cutting you down. But when you move to your heart, you see your sacred holiness, divinity, and that is where we can actually learn self-love. It really isn't like, oh, I'm going to take, a nice warm bath. It's like, no, actually, I'm going to get to know me and hold me in deep compassion, even when, like, I'm feel like I didn't or did or whatever, said didn't say what, like, all the times when we want to beat ourselves up, when we move into our heart and see the sacred holiness that we are, and hold ourselves in self-love and compassion, that's when we hear our true voice.
it's beautiful. Is there anything you want to share about your work as people go onto your website, just some of the programs and offerings you have so they can kind of know a little bit more?
I work privately. I've learned some energy techniques that I use to help people move through some of their blocks. I I mainly, though, I love being the advocate of your dreams. I love being the cheerleader. So, anyway, you can work with me privately. Right now I don't have any group things. being offered. Um, yeah. So,
Awesome.
but
Huh.
if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm really happy to have a conversation.
And they can do that through the website, right? There's a contact
Yep.
us. Okay,
teresagooch.com.
perfect. Love it. Man, what else do you want to talk about, Mom? I mean, I love that you mentioned the stuff with children. Christian and I have been working on that with the intuitive child. If you go to the website, theintuitivechild.co. So it's just a passion that we have around really helping the children of our world see who they are from this intuitive perspective. So, if you're feeling called to share that with your kids, we also, for anybody that joins our club for the adult program, we gift one to a child at the orphanage in Ecuador. So, that's just super, super powerful, exciting work that we're loving to do, just because we realize that as we become the change and provide the education for people to trust their intuition, it naturally unfolds, right? That
It
great.
does, and especially when, like, you're talking about kids in an orphanage. I mean, like, you were touched. We were all, like, so deeply touched about the one girl that you taught that I mean, I remember you telling me, like, I thought she was, like, super upset at me and didn't want anything to do with this, like, there was this, like, but there was this broken girl inside, and then when you were finished with your teaching that day, she came up to you crying like you'd given her hope. That intuition does. It's like it doesn't matter what your experience and situation is. Like if you can move into give yourself permission and the validation that you know and that there you get to create your own life, like you get to do this. That hope for children right now is because there's so much happening in the world right now that wants to squelch and keep us in our fear. And that's why I love that we talked about fear at the beginning of this, because our children must not be
Mhm.
fearful. They
Yeah.
must not be.
Yeah.
And we have to embody that as adults. Like, I mean, it's human to be fearful, but I am telling you, to be wrapped up in so much fear you can't move, we project that onto our kids. And I mean, I have to say that I have had in the past way more fear than I have now. And really was a helicopter mom. Like with, our son, you and our son, it's just like, I was so afraid something would happen and I had to protect and I had to, like, and you know what? That didn't do you or you know, your brother any favors. What the biggest favor we can give our kids is to explore the world right now and be in the safety of our presence, and know all is well and that you have a voice. It's meant to be heard. Your song is meant to be sung. And you're here. Yeah, you're here for a reason, to have fun, basically.
That's sweet. Well said. And I mean, the only thing that I would add to that story is I actually didn't see her and she's not broken. I know sometimes that term gets used. What I could see was she was struggling with a situation. It was very hard being there in her life, but I saw her strength and I knew what I was feeling from her on the surface wasn't really the deeper energy of her wanting to connect and feel the love that was being offered to her. And she went with her intuition and received that and listened to the intuitive success coaching teaching, and that transformed her. So by the end of it, she came up to me and gave me a huge hug and said, thank you, and was crying. So her walls came down through the power of love and intuition, right? So to me, there's no brokenness. There's feelings of I can call you and say, I feel hurt or sad or whatever. And she was feeling that, but there's no brokenness, because I think
Right,
I
right.
just,
I'm glad you clarified that because that is true. Yeah,
Mhm. And so
yeah.
that's like, yeah, I believe for everybody, and that's just my personal belief, everybody can have their own, but I just feel like to see and feel beyond the surface sometimes, right? Like getting to the heart of the matter, like I see you and you're beautiful underneath all of that, and speaking to that part that knows, then it calls that out, right? Because it's already there. It could be like maybe laying dormant, but it's there. And so that's the whole idea of intuitive success coaching, is you're opening up to what's already there and then connecting to the infinite universe within and around you.
Right.
So how could you not be this ultimate beautiful expression of love, because that is your soul, right? So that can manifest as business, relationships, travel, truly whatever your soul's wanting, right? And then breaking through those blocks, which are always mental and emotional. And sometimes they manifest in the physical body, creating disease and all these different things. I mean, you know that I've worked with people since they've done the program that like were hardly able to walk. They could walk. They were blind. Now they could see. Like, it's powerful because it's all in you. And so when you awaken that, it's like, whoo, okay, it's there.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that girl from the orphanage back and clarified that whole thing, because
Yeah. And I know that's how
right. We are all whole. We are all whole always.
Right.
And that was, I'm so glad you clarified that, because that's
because I knew what you meant by that. And I think that, to your point, as far as this world, is my personal belief is like, because we're already whole, we don't necessarily need anything outside of us, right? Like trying to say, hey, just harmonize it in nature, like put your feet on the ground. Like that is your connection.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's good.
So beautiful. Wow. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so. You can give me a prompt, but I think that's.
I really appreciate you so much, Mom. Love you. You're amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think maybe that's the last thing I want to say. As parents, you're leaving an imprint and an energy that your kids are constantly picking up on, right? Like, you already know this, those of you that are parents. And so for, you, Mom, like you learn through the energy, right? So it becomes okay to speak your truth or your intuition, right? So I just invite everybody to create a safe space within you and the people around you for them to follow their intuition, and you also to do the same, that you are held in love to be able to do that. And the fear is most likely a construct of your mind or an experience. Like, I've had experiences where I felt disconnected from that love, right? And then you have to like, okay, how do I activate the positive resources within me, which is what we do in the process. Like, oh yeah, I can feel good, I can feel loved, and have a new belief that then supports my intuition, right? So if anybody's interested in that, you can go to www.theintuitivesuccessclub.com and you can see how the process works and all the other great stuff on the site. So I really invite everybody to just tune in to your intuition, see what it knows, trust yourself.
I was going to say, trust your intuition. So
Yes.
that, yeah.
Oh my
Because that's the trick.
Yeah.
It's not the loud voice. So then you've got to trust the other voice. And because here's the thing about intuition, it often doesn't make sense, and it often goes very, very opposite of what the thoughts were.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust what you know.
Yeah.
Right, everyone. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Bye.